Welcome everyone. Since it's 12 p.m. in Central Time, I'd like to, introduce our speaker, Dr. Toyin Alli. Welcome, and thank you so much for agreeing to, present today, your experiences. And as always, just to, orient our audience, her talk will take about 40 to 45 minutes, and you can feel free to drop your questions in the chat box, so we will address them in the end. But it can be an interactive Q&A session, so you can also unmute yourself and direct your questions to our speaker when her talk is concluded. And again, I'd like to thank everyone who are being here. And now without further ado, I want to introduce Dr. Toyin Alli. Uh, she's Dr. Toyin Alli, and she's a senior lecturer at University of Georgia and the founder of a digital education and media company called the Academic Society. So she's going to talk about more around this, and she's a former Ronald McNair Scholar and completed her graduate doctoral studies in mathematics at the University of Alabama in 2016. In her current role at the University of Georgia, she focuses on increasing student engagement in introductory level math courses. She is a teaching mentor for graduate students and a new faculty member. And a new faculty member has redesigned a major course in her department and was awarded 2 teaching awards. Through the Academic Society, she has written a book and created online courses on time management, productivity, and self-care. So, Toyin, whenever you're ready.
Yes, thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am going to share my screens because I created slides for some visuals. And yeah, whenever you have thoughts and comments as we go through, I'll keep my eye on the chat and I can kind of weave some things in if I can. And if not, I'll answer your questions at the end. But let me share my screen here and then find my chat. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about becoming a well-rounded academic. That's what I like to call myself because my life is not just about academia. And I do feel that true fulfillment comes from being a well-rounded person. And so today I'm going to share a path. This is not the only path to academic success and fulfillment. So in today's discussion, I will share a little bit more about myself. I will be talking about my grad school experience. I'll share the very significant role that North Carolina State University played in my life and future, even though I did not attend the school. I will talk about my job application process, going on on-campus interviews, getting job offers, and I'll also talk about my entrepreneurship journey while being a lecturer at the same time. I'll also share my path to promotion. So we have a lot to discuss here, and then we'll do some questions at the end. Now, I will be sharing my own personal story, but I have identified some key takeaways that you can apply to your own life to kind of figure out, well, how can I map my own path to academic success, especially if it doesn't look anything like my own story? Okay, so as mentioned, my name is Dr. Toyin Ali, and I am a senior lecturer at the University of Georgia. I teach a lot of the introductory level math courses like calculus, applied linear algebra, things like that. I got my PhD from the University of Alabama in 2016, and I founded a company called the Academic Society, where I help graduate students with time management and productivity. That's how I started. And then it's expanded well beyond that. So the first thing I did in my business was become a content creator. So I have a YouTube channel. Perhaps you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I send out a newsletter to graduate students. I created a grad school prep course to help incoming graduate students prepare for the next step and set the right foundation to go into grad school prepared. I also have a program called Focus, which is an accountability and productivity program for graduate students. And then after that, I started expanded beyond because professors would ask me, like, how are you being a college instructor, but also running a business? And so I expanded to also help professors create what I call like a semester-proof business. So a business that's profitable even when the semester is super busy. So I created my independent professor workshop and I do teaching and business consulting. And that is a lot, but I still have time for myself. My schedule is not always completely packed, and I'm going to share how I'm able to manage all of this and how all of this like came to be in the past like 8 years or so. So let's start with my grad school experience. So, as I mentioned, I went to a PhD program. I actually went straight to the PhD program. So, I didn't get a master's first. I went straight from undergrad at Ole Miss, which I don't know if I mentioned. I'm actually from Mississippi. So, I'm really excited to talk to you all in Mississippi. I grew up in Starkville, Mississippi, and I went to Ole Miss for undergrad and got my undergrad in math. And then I went to the University of Alabama to get my PhD in mathematics. Now, luckily, I was able to be awarded a fellowship that I didn't have to apply for. The department just had these fellowships available for students who were underrepresented in the field. So, as a woman and a Black woman in math, I was quite underrepresented. So, I was able to get my graduate school fully funded with a stipend for the first 3 years of grad school. And so because I was fully funded, I didn't have to do any like graduate teaching assistantships at the beginning. So I didn't have to teach any classes or do any tutoring or grading. But this meant that I had a very heavy course load. I had a lot of coursework. Normally, students take 3 classes. I took 4 classes every single semester, which was a lot of work. I was doing a lot of practice problems and problem sets. I did research, so I chose, even though I was in the math department, I still chose statistics as my research area, and I worked really well with my advisor. We made a really good team. Eventually, I did become a graduate teaching assistant. So I taught classes, I tutored in the math lab, I joined communities on campus. I was part of the Graduate Student Association, I think is what it was called. And I was our department representative for the math department. And I also did service and outreach projects, which I'll talk a little bit more about later on. So, as you all know, the grad school experience is made up of a lot of components. It's quite overwhelming. And on top of that, all of this, you have to like be an adult too. So, my first takeaway that I thought found to be pretty instrumental in creating my path to academic success and fulfillment is to be open-minded in grad school. So, yes, there are going to be some components of grad school where you feel like, oh, well, this is not exactly what I signed up for, or I'm not really interested in this thing. But being open-minded and just really just taking in the whole experience, and whether you like something or not, just take note of that. Take note of which aspects you love the most. And so you'll kind of see that theme throughout my story. Okay, so I actually had no idea what I wanted to do as a career when I went into grad school. My whole life, math has been my favorite subject. It's actually the only subject that I really like. And when I was graduating undergrad, I had no idea what I wanted to do as a career. But the thing that I did know is that I really loved math. And so while I've tried to figure out what my career will be, let me just continue learning about the thing I love most. And so I went into grad school with just the goal of learning more about math. But I'm the type of person who likes structure and I like to have a plan. I don't really deal that well with uncertainty. So I did create a career goal for myself. I would think, oh, well, maybe I could use math and become a climatologist and like study the weather. Or maybe I could use math and do finance and do financial math or financial engineering or something. So I feel like I chose a new career goal every semester and I would learn more about it and realize, oh no, this is not for me. I do not want to do this. But I kept trying and kept trying to find things that I would resonate with. And I actually never really figured out what I wanted to do until after my third year of grad school. It took a very long time. And I figured it out when my fellowship ended, like unexpectedly ended. And I say it was a blessing, even though at the time it was very stressful. So I mentioned that I got a fellowship that was supposed to last for 3 years, and somehow the money just ran out. And so it did not last for 3 years. So unexpectedly, in my second year, I no longer had funding, but luckily my department was able to offer me and everyone else with that fellowship a graduate teaching assistantship, which meant that I had to teach 2 classes every semester. So at my school, we had to teach 2 classes as the instructor of record, and I was terrified. I'm actually quite a shy person. I always was very soft spoken. I didn't like public speaking, so I was very nervous to teach classes, even though everyone in my family are teachers. Like my mom is a professor, my aunts taught high school, even my grandmother taught high school, but I just thought teaching wasn't really for me just because of my personality and being so introverted and things like that. So I go into my very first class. I taught pre-calculus trig. And I remember the first day was mostly just orientation. I was supposed to go over the syllabus, answer any questions the students had. I don't think I had planned to go over any math that day. So I created a roll sheet and I sent it around the room for the students to sign their name if they were present. And I remember going over the syllabus so fast that I was done with class before the roll had even gone all the way around the room. It was like a 13-minute class because I was so nervous and like overwhelmed. I just sped through everything. But throughout the semester, I started to realize when I'm teaching math, it's really not about me at all. It's about the students' understanding. And that gave me confidence because I was able to show the students that they could actually learn math. And that became like my biggest passion was to show students who were terrified of math and thought that they were terrible at it, show them that they could do it, they could succeed, and they could actually enjoy math. So I realized I loved teaching math, and I never would have figured that out if my fellowship didn't end and I had to become a graduate teaching assistant. So it was a blessing. My fellowship ended. I love teaching. And so from there, the decision was made. I was like, oh, I know exactly what I want to do. So I decided, okay, I'm going to stay in academia. I'm going to become a professor so I can continue teaching math to students and helping those introductory level students understand and learn and even enjoy math. So, with that decision made, I was able to go all in on becoming the best instructor that I could possibly be. So, instead of kind of really trying to do everything to the best of my ability every single time in every area of grad school, I had a new grad school focus. I wanted to learn more about teaching. I started to go to seminars about teaching, and these were not required for me to do, but I knew that this was something I wanted to do. And I became so good at teaching math that I was asked to be a teaching mentor for the other grad students in my program. So I would observe their teaching, I would have them come to my classes, I would give them tips to help them engage with their students. I also participated in outreach projects. So at Alabama, we had this fun event called Night at the Museum. So there's a museum on campus with like a bunch of artifacts there. And they asked the graduate students to set up little booths to teach the that would come something interesting about their field. And so me and some of the other people in my department in my grad school program, we would teach these kids about fun like math things. And it was such a great time. And I also applied for career development programs. And this actually became really, really important for me. And this is how North Carolina State University entered into my life. So, one of the first programs that I applied for with them was called the Building Future Faculty Program. So, the BFF program. So, at this point, I knew I wanted to be a professor and I wanted to learn more about being a professor. So this program was awesome. It was like a weekend event where we came on a Friday, and we got to come to campus and we left on like a Saturday or a Sunday. And so on that Friday, we were able to shadow faculty in our field. And so since I was in the math department, but my research was in statistics, I shadowed a statistics professor and I got to visit their office, learn about the responsibilities of their job, and just like learn what does it really take to become a faculty member at a big research university. I also presented my research there to a group of graduate students in my field. And probably one of the more important things that I did was attend an active learning seminar. Now, and before this seminar, I did not realize that the longer a class went on, the less engaged the students were, and how it's really important to engage the students and have them do something active every so often in the class. Until I went to this seminar, I had literally been doing like 75-minute lectures. And, I'll have the students talk to me, but I really didn't break up the class that much. This seminar changed the way I taught forever. I was so excited about what I learned in this seminar that I went back to school the next week and I was like, I've got to try this active learning thing. But I was a little nervous that my students would hate it. So I bribed them with bonus points. And the class that I was teaching was called Discrete Math. And it is like the intro to proofs class. It's the first time a math student or a computer science student is writing in a math class. And so what I did, there was a lot of board space in the room. So I broke the students up into groups of about 3 students and I gave them some theorems that they had to prove. And so I was like, everyone go to the board. I want you and your group to write up the proof to these theorems and then present it to me. So I went around the room, I would listen to them present their proofs. And if they got it perfect the first try, I gave them a bonus point. If they didn't, I would give them some notes and come back, and then they could get like half credit if they did it. That day of class was amazing. All of the students were engaged. They were talking to each other. They were explaining things to each other. They were learning. And I could like visually see and hear them learning. I was like, this is the most amazing day of class ever. I've got to continue doing this. So from that moment, I implemented active learning in every class I taught. Another instrumental part of this Building Future Faculty program was the grant writing seminar. So we went to this seminar all about the process of writing a grant to get funding for your research. And I don't know, for some reason, I didn't know that this was a part of the academic career, was like grant writing for funding so that you could actually do your research. And everything about that seminar was stressful to me. It felt very competitive. It made me feel uneasy. I was like, oh, I don't know about this grant writing thing. I don't really like that. So that was like the first thing that like gave me pause about becoming a professor. And then the final thing we did in this Building Future Faculty program was get our CV reviewed. So I had someone in my field review my CV and just go over it with me. And he said, it looks great, but why are you trying to make it seem like you taught these classes? I was so confused. I was like, well, what do you mean? I did teach these classes. And he was like, well, here it says you were a graduate teaching assistant. You maybe taught a recitation or you did grading or tutoring. I was like, oh no, I was the instructor of record for all of these classes. And he was like taken aback because apparently the graduate students at their program were not instructor of record. And so this turned out to be like this great gift that my department gave me. I got to teach a bunch of different classes on my own that gave me so much teaching experience as a graduate student. And so I realized, well, I need to make this very clear on my CV for when I start applying for jobs. And so I made it clear that, yes, I'm a graduate teaching assistant, but I was the instructor of record for all of these classes. I taught these classes myself. So, the key takeaway that I want you to take from this portion of the story is that you shouldn't undersell your grad school experience. So, if you did something that was fairly significant or something that is very much in alignment with the career you're looking for, don't undersell it in your CV. make it seem like is as important as you believe it to be, right? The CV is not the time to be shy or modest. You need to sell yourself on your CV. Okay, so I want to say this was the summer before I graduated grad school. I went back to North Carolina State University. I had applied for this 10-day collaborative research program called the Industrial Mathematics and Statistics Modeling Workshop. And this was a pretty cool program. So you lived on campus for 10 days and they had people from different math fields. So some pure math, some applied, some people who were doing ecology or computational biology or things like that. And we were paired to work with people or about groups, maybe of like 4 or 5 from all different fields to work on a specific research project. My group worked with the EPA, so we got to meet with someone from the EPA and work on a problem that they were working with. We wanted to come up with a way to measure the amount of pollutants in the air after a wildfire. And it was a pretty impressive project. It was a grueling 10 days. And at the end of this program, that was when I got the revelation. I love teaching a lot. And research had always just been fine. I was like, my research is fine. I could continue to do this. It's okay. But after this program, I was like, oh, I kind of dislike research, which is something that most academics do not say. I didn't really like the process. I found it stressful and overwhelming. And I was like, oh, do I not really want to be a professor? Like, could I be a professor without doing all of this research? So this is another moment that like gave me pause about what I wanted to do as a career. So that brings me to key takeaway number 3. So this takeaway is to take note of what you love most and probably more importantly, least about grad school, because this can help you decide what kind of career you move into, right? You want to be able to take jobs that you get to do more of the things you love and less of the things you really hated about grad school, right? So we go into grad school open-minded, trying all of the things, but eventually you know exactly what you love and what you don't love. Okay, so after that, I go into my job application season because I'm still committed. I'm like, okay, I want to be a professor. I want to stay in academia. How can I do this? So I started preparing to apply for jobs the summer before I started my 5th year of grad school. So this would be the summer of 2015, and I graduated in May 2016. So I started researching to figure out, well, what types of academic jobs are out there? What are the requirements? What do I have to put in place to be able to apply for one of these positions? And boy, had I underestimated what the process was like. It's such a grueling, like extensive process to apply for grad school. There was so much that you had to prepare beforehand, right? I had to prepare my CV, which I had been working on and had gotten feedback on. I had to write a teaching statement all about my philosophy of teaching math. And then I also had to write a research statement. I had to get letters of recommendation, 3 to 4. Some talking about my teaching, some about my research, some a mix of both. Had to write a cover letter that was different for every single school that I wanted to apply to teach at. I had to share my teaching evaluations for the courses that I taught. And then some schools required other things like a diversity statement or a comment on like religious views if it was like a Christian university or something like that. And I was like, wow, this is a lot of writing. And like maybe even more writing than I had done in my grad school experience because I was mostly practicing problems since I got my PhD in math, and I had yet to begin writing my PhD, my dissertation. So I was like, okay, I have to get started early. So I started these documents in the summer and I got people to look over them early in the fall. And I started applying for jobs in like September. And I wasn't even graduating until May. But I'm so glad that I started early because I got a job offer very early in like October. It was a tenure track position and I turned it down. So let me tell you about that experience. This was a assistant professor position in statistics, which my education background is math, but my research was in statistics. All of the classes that I had taught were in math, but in this new role, I would have to teach statistics classes, classes that I had never taught or even taken before, really. So that was one of the reasons that I turned the job down, is because I wasn't excited about teaching the classes that I would have to teach in this position. Also, I learned that I would be the only Black faculty member at the whole university. So during the on-campus interview, I got to meet with a lot of people, people in the department, the students, and I also got to visit the Office of Multicultural Affairs, and I got to meet some of the students that that department, that office served, and they said they were so excited to have me there because I would be the only Black professor that they would have learned from at this university. And I'm just like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm 26 years old. This is a lot of responsibility that I don't have the background for. And I would imagine that as the sole Black faculty member at this school, I would be in charge of all of the diversity efforts and inclusion and all of the things like that. And that was not what I was looking for in my job at this point in my life at 26 years old. And then the big kicker is, okay, I would be teaching classes, but I would also be developing the statistics department. And I would be required to do a lot of research, which I had already determined wasn't my favorite. And so while it was scary because I didn't have other job offers, I turned this job down. And I did it because I was like, okay, well, it's still early in application season. And if this school wanted me for a position that I'm not a great fit for, I feel like another school will want me for a position that I was a wonderful fit for. So from that moment on, I stopped applying for jobs that I didn't actually want. So we get so nervous when we start applying for jobs. It's like the job market is really hard and a lot of people don't get jobs. And so you just want to apply for everything. But I learned that, well, what if I get a job that I actually didn't want? And I just didn't want to live a life that I didn't enjoy. So I stopped. I had this whole spreadsheet of like over 135 jobs that I had sorted. You'll find I'm a very organized person. I had sorted by application deadline. And so I was just working through the list week by week based on the application deadlines. And so I eliminated so many positions from that list after getting this job offer and turning it down. So, what kind of jobs did I start applying for exclusively? I started applying for only tenure track positions at small liberal arts colleges because I knew they wouldn't have a graduate program and I wouldn't be required to do like my own research. I was like, I could do research with undergraduates, right? I can do undergraduate research projects. I would be happy doing that. That's totally fine. I just didn't want to continue with the research I was doing. I didn't want to do my own. And then I also learned about a position called lecturer at Research One institutions. And I love the idea of this position because it has like the funding of a big research institution, but I wouldn't be required to do any research at all. I would just get to focus on teaching, teaching introductory level math classes. And that was the thing that I loved doing the most. I was like, could it be possible that I could get a job doing only the thing that I loved most? Turns out it was possible. So I got two more job offers. One was a tenure track position at a small liberal arts college, and one was a lecturer position at a research institution, Research One institution. And the debate wasn't that hard in my mind. It wasn't a difficult decision, but I ended up choosing the lecturer position, even though the annual salary was about $5,000 less. I knew I would be happier doing that work, even though this position didn't come with tenure. It's a permanent position and it comes with, I could get promotion, but not tenure. And I was like, I'm fine with that. I'm happy to teach these classes. I know I'm great. I would do great at it. It's like the perfect type of position for me. So I accepted the role that I have. Then I was a lecturer at the University of Georgia. And let me tell you, I thrive. I thrive as a lecturer. I am so good at this job. And it's so interesting because a lot of times we hope to get to the next stage and to get promoted. I was finding that I didn't have to try that hard to get promoted because I naturally wanted to do the things that would earn me a promotion anyway. I love redesigning classes. I love creating course materials. I love serving on hiring committees and learning about how other people teach. I participated in something called the Active Learning Summer Institute, where it was hosted by the Center for Teaching and Learning at my school. And they actually paid instructors to, over the summer, redesign their courses to implement more active learning. You know, I love active learning. So I did that. I became a Teaching Academy Fellow. I won a teaching award from my college called the Sandy Beaver Teaching Award. I was promoted to a senior lecturer, which is why I'm a senior lecturer now. I did do this SOTL Scholars Program. So SOTL is the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. And so, I wasn't a huge fan of my disciplinary research, but I was like, maybe I could do research on the teaching that I'm doing. Turns out I also didn't love that either, but I tried it, and that was good. I participated in something called the Delta Project, where we worked on like the peer review process and student evaluations. And recently, I actually did write a grant. It was an internal school grant for active learning. And my department was awarded $15,000 to redesign the rest of the calculus sequence so that students can take the full calculus sequence from pre-calculus all the way to calculus 3 with active learning classes. All right, where am I? Here. And so what I find to be very interesting and very exciting is my department head actually asked me. He came to me to apply for early promotion. He was like, "You've done so much stuff that qualifies you for promotion. You should just apply early." I didn't even know that was a possibility. So, with my department head's approval, I applied for promotion early and I got it. I was promoted to senior lecturer in my 6th year instead of in my 7th year. So, my next key takeaway for you is that when you have a job that's the right fit for you, you'll just naturally want to do those things that help you do well in the job, that help you get considered for a promotion. It's something that internally you would do anyway, even if it didn't look good for a promotion. These are the things that you naturally want to do. So it's so important to find a job that you have alignment with. And a lot of people, they do not understand my decision to get a non-tenure track job. People have a lot of misconceptions about my job and they have questions about my career choice. Like they'll ask me these questions to my face. Like when I was so excited that I got my job as a lecturer, I was like, oh my goodness, I got hired at the University of Georgia as a lecturer. And people ask, oh, is this a tenure track position? I was like, no, but it's a permanent position. I can get promotion. And so people would ask, are you just doing this until you can get a tenure track position, or wouldn't you prefer a tenure track position? And the answer is no. I love the job that I had. And if you remember, I was offered 2 tenure track positions that I turned down just because it wasn't a good fit for me personally. So people just assume that I want a tenure track position because that's what's most common. Like historically, when people get a PhD and they want to go into academia, they get a tenure track position. But that type of position may not be the best fit for everyone. It wasn't a best fit for me. So I was able to find, luckily, that position existed, a position that was the best fit for me. So I love my career choice and the life that it has provided for me. I am not concerned about getting my research published. I just get to come to class every day, teach my students a bit about math, and go home, right? And so this has given me more time to be a bit more well-rounded. And so what I decided to do with my extra time, I decided to start a business. So I have a business called the Academic Society. And the way it started was I had a blog when I was in grad school where I would just share how I would prep for my teaching, what I wore to teach my classes as a graduate student, and like how I would pack my lunches, like how I would prepare meals to stay on campus all day, things like that. I had a blog, but eventually I was like, I feel like I want to monetize this. I want to turn it into a business. And so I learned how to create online courses and how to build a business. I love learning about business stuff. And so I decided to help the people who are at the place that I was before I got my job. So I started to help graduate students with time management, organization, and productivity because those are the skills, those like soft skills that no one really teaches you, but you're just like expected to know how to do it well when you go to grad school. So I help grad students with that. So I started a YouTube channel, and so now I have over 13,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I'm really close to 14,000 subscribers, which is so cool because I feel like I was sitting at 30 subscribers for like a year. I created my grad school prep course to really help people understand, well, what is academia like? What is the grad school process like? What are the things that I could be learning now to make the transition into grad school easier? I have this accountability and productivity program for graduate students that I check in with them. I help them set goals. We do a monthly planning session every single month, and it helps keep them on track, but also helps them set realistic goals so they don't like burn out every single month in grad school. And surprising to me, I wrote a book. I don't necessarily consider myself a writer, but I kept answering like the same questions about grad school over and over again. And I knew grad students were reading a lot. So I was like, well, maybe I can put the things that I help people with into a written form. So I wrote my book, #GradVoss, a grad school survival guide, and almost 1,000 people have purchased the book, which just continues to blow my mind. Then all of this work that I've done got noticed by a McNair director, which is so cool because I don't even think this person knew that I was a McNair scholar. So when I was at Ole Miss, I participated in the Ronald E. McNair program and learned about grad school. And that program was one of the reasons that I even went to grad school. So now every summer, I work with the McNair program to deliver time management productivity content to their students and help them with the grad school application process. And so far, over 50 McNair programs have participated in that summer program. And even now, I'm still like pivoting and learning more about what fulfills me. So I started a personal brand. So an extension of the academic society where I help college professors, the people who have been asking me like, how are you doing both of these things at the same time, running a business and teaching? 4 classes every single semester. That is a lot. And so the type of business I have, I call it a semester proof business. Like no matter how busy my semester gets, my business still runs on its own because of the automations and things that I've set up. So I've created my independent professor workshop to help professors learn more about that. And I realized, okay, I'm helping professors with their business, but my greatest strength is my teaching, like teaching my students and having my students be engaged. I was like, why am I not helping professors with that too? So I've recently started helping professors with that and increasing student engagement and getting more positive course evaluations. And so one of the ways that I do that is implementing a mid-semester survey in my classes. So I created a toolkit to help other professors implement and analyze and change things based on their own mid-semester surveys. I now have a podcast called Good Teaching, where I invite professors on to share their most effective teaching strategies, and I share my own experience. I wrote this essay all about like my thoughts on tenure and like maybe that shouldn't be the only metric that we use to determine whether or not we have academic success and fulfillment. So I just really like sharing all the things that I've learned with people and hopefully help them. That's one of the things that fulfills me. And it makes me very well-rounded, right? And you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, this girl is doing way too much stuff. Does she have time for herself? Yes, I do. I'm a very efficient person. I only do the things I love and I do them well. And then I have time for myself. So I have my YouTube channels. I have two YouTube channels where I create content, but I'm still able to have time to hang out with my friends and travel. Take a girls' trip every single year. I even dance. I joined an adult dance company and we recently performed an all dance version of Moulin Rouge, and that was such a great time. And it's actually amazing how many other academics are in this dance company with me. Like the director of this dance company is also a professor at UGA. We have a couple other professors at UGA that are in the dance company, some grad students. We practice every single week, every single Monday, and we have 1 to 2 performances a semester. Um, I love teaching my classes and working with my students. And I recently got engaged. I'll be getting married this summer. That happened. All of this happened in the last couple of years or so, but I'm able to find this like true balance and live a life that I truly enjoy. So my main mission that I like to share with people is this, is that you can be successful in academia and live a fulfilled life at the same time. Like you can do both. It is possible, but you must keep these takeaways in mind. So while you're in grad school, be open-minded about what you're doing. So, all of the different aspects of grad school, think about, well, what things do I truly like about this aspect and what things do I not like as much? So, try all of the things, do what is asked of you, but just keep the things in mind. Like, what parts are you actually really enjoying? Also, when you do start applying for jobs, don't undersell your grad school experience, especially the parts of your experience that are in alignment with the job that you're hoping to get, like the career path, like what things really stand out in relation to the career that you want. Take note of what you love most and least about grad school and see if you can find a career that allows you to do a lot of the thing you love most and very little of the things you don't really like. And when you have a job that is the right fit for you, you're going to naturally want to do the things that are considered for promotion. So it's really important to have that right fit career. I truly believe that if you're going to spend all of this time learning and going to grad school and training, all of this time when people are like off living their lives, you're here, you're learning, and you're like advancing, right? You're doing all of this preparation. You deserve after this to live a life that you actually enjoy, right? You are the person who actually has to live your life. So it's important that you love it, especially if you're going through all of this to set yourself up. Okay, so that is basically what I wanted to share with you. I do have some resources that I'll share at the end, but I wanted to see if anyone had any questions for me, any discussions, anything you'd like to me to clarify. Feel free to maybe use the raise hand emoji or unmute yourself or share something in the chat.
Hello.
Hi, Ken.
Yes, you have all the qualifications to pursue a tenured position with all the security and everything. So that's the first time I've ever heard where
Mhm.
you have more than enough qualifications, but not to pursue that. So that's quite a direction.
Yeah.
And So that was a bold decision, really, but you felt like you would be unhappy, huh?
Mhm. That's correct. I actually feel very strongly about this. Like, even so, I see people get a PhD in a specific field and then they go to work in that field, maybe in academia or not, but then they start feeling like a draw to do something else, like the job isn't really fulfilling them. It's never too late to change your mind. I just don't believe I'm not a person who can sit in something that I don't enjoy. I have to be living a life that I love. And so that's just like a personal decision for me. And hopefully my story can create freedom for other people.
Thank you.
Um,
You're welcome.
my name is Kateri. I just want to say I just love the what do you call it? Just how you present yourself. You are just I just love it. But you are so thorough, and you just made me smile through the whole thing and how honest you were. And I'm like actually in that position right now where you were like, really don't like research, and I think I talked to the professor about this. I don't am not interested in it. They keep talking about it, and I'm just like, is this even the field that I should be in if they just keep talking about research? Because that's not where I want to go. So I really relate to you. So thank you so much for sharing from your heart for that.
Oh, I'm so
I
glad that
really don't have any
resonated.
questions because of how thorough
Yeah.
you were, but I would love to talk more, to
Of
be
course,
honest.
of course. Feel free to find me. And while you all are asking questions, I'll put this screen up. Um,
Oh,
these
thank
are
you.
the places to find me online, and I have some grad school resources if you want to check them out with the QR code.
Hi, Toyin. I'm
Hello,
Candace.
Candace. Hi, Candace.
I'm actually in the position right now where I plan to graduate in May and trying to figure out what the next steps are.
Ooh.
Also, I have been subscribed to your newsletter since 2021. So
Wow.
when I saw they were bringing you here, I screamed and like emailed. Everyone was like, "Thank you guys for bringing." So I'm
Oh,
a
that means
huge.
so much.
My question for you is when it comes to student engagement. So my actual dissertation research is on soft skills and how to incorporate more soft skills into STEM learning for undergraduates. And so I wanted to get any feedback from you on, so I know you work with mostly with grad students, but what your recommendations would be for making students in undergrad more well-rounded before they get to grad school so that they can maybe have more options and a better, more robust experience in grad school if they want to go.
Yes. So while my online work is with graduate students, I actually only teach undergrads, specifically intro level math classes. So I'm working with these students all the time. And I actually have pretty big thoughts about this, about introductory classes. I think this is the best time to like set students up for academic success because I think it's very interesting, especially in math, which I can speak about, is intro classes is where we get the students who typically are like terrified of math. They don't have the best foundation and they're coming in with like low confidence. However, the people we get to teach these classes are typically grad students, postdocs, new faculty member, and so these are the people with the least amount of teaching experience and like the biggest gap in like what they're learning compared to what the students are learning. It's really hard to go from getting a PhD in math and then teaching algebra. That can be so challenging. And so I actually have been playing with the idea that maybe the content of the class is not the most important thing. And maybe we should be focusing on building our students' confidence, getting them to be able to speak about what we're learning or what they're learning using their math language and like just getting them set up with their organization. Because a lot of being good at math is following instructions and being organized. So I do take a lot of time in my classes to talk to my students about, you know, their schedule, how much time they should be spending learning things. And my classes are completely active, especially my intro classes. We do group work every single day. So the students are actually participating and engaging every single day. And I find that the way that I've structured my classes helps the students understand what they need to do in the rest of their classes. So because I'm so structured and I have a specific schedule for everything, we do this thing on this type of day and this thing on this type of day. The due dates are on this day. It helps them figure out how to manage their schedule better and like manage their schedule around my class. And so I find that they become better students all around. But I don't know if I answered your questions. If you want to re-ask your question to make sure I answered it, that would be great too.
No, you did. Thank you.
Okay.
I was just thinking how my research found that like a lot of the upper level seminar style classes are great places, but you just gave me an idea that we should be doing this all throughout, that introductory classes, even though sometimes they can be large in number, can be structured in a way to maximize student personal and as well as their professional development. So just gave me another avenue to look at too. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Hi, Toyin.
Hello, Abigail.
So I don't have a question. I was just gonna say, first of all, I think that's such a cool connection, Candace, that you've been following her newsletter since 2021. That's so awesome. And I'm sure you were really excited whenever you saw her on our seminar series. But I was just gonna say, I'm really excited to follow your YouTube channel because I just followed it earlier, and whenever I followed it, I realized that I had actually watched a few of your videos, and so I'm actually and they're I just like was scrolling through the topic. So, anyways, I'm really excited to have a YouTuber because I always look for YouTubers for like graduate school experiences and like the productive morning routines and like the money saving. It's all very helpful, and I very much enjoyed your presentation and got a lot out of it. So, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so glad the YouTube, that's where people mostly find me, my YouTube channel. And there's like, I binged all your videos. I'm like, good. I love that. I'm just like happy that it's helpful.
Yeah, I love them. And sometimes I'll even like watch them in the morning as I'm getting ready. And so it's nice to have something like that to listen to. But thank you.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
I just want to thank you for sharing and being so open about your journey. This was terrific for our students to hear. And I also just want to share just a little bit about my own path, which is that I had similar, my degrees are in mathematics as well, and had very similar situation that you had and enjoyed teaching so much as a graduate student. And yet things evolve over time. So there's like seasons for all these things, right? So then I started as a professor in a mathematics department, teaching. Well, I was teaching the same thing for a long, long time. And I was doing research. And then, as I got into my 30s in particular, I really started loving the research. And now I've sort of shifted. So I guess I'm saying all of that to our graduate students and to everyone is to think about there are all these different seasons in your life. Whether you are getting married, whether you have children, where you are in your career, all of these things are constantly evolving. And I love what you said about listen to what you enjoy, listen to what you're good at. And I think that's just really important, but also know that you need to continue to listen because those things are evolving all the time. And you are evolving as a person, as a scholar, as an educator. And so don't think you'll have all the answers at 26 or 36 or 86. It's all still moving. So I so appreciate this. This was really just really heartfelt, and I really enjoyed this hour. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Julie. And thanks for bringing that up too. I'm always evolving. You saw my business focuses change, but also like what I'm interested in changes too. A couple years ago, I was asked to be the Calculus 1 coordinator in my department. And while I loved helping instructors teach their calculus courses, I hated the admin of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a like honor to be asked to do this, but I think it's just not healthy for me. I was feeling anxious and I like almost never feel anxious. And so I made the decision not to do that anymore. And so I think checking in with yourself every semester is really, really helpful. I mean, I recommend weekly reflections, but if you want to just check in every semester and think what things went really well, what things did not go well, what do I want to continue doing, and what do I want to not continue doing, I think that's a great practice too. So thank you for bringing that up, Julie.
Okay, one more question from me.
Yes.
Thank you, Tanya.
Toyin.
What
It's like
is
toy yin.
Toyin? Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
You're welcome.
What is the trade secret to being the greatest math teacher to a general audience? So, what
Ooh.
is the trade secret? I
Mhm.
know you have identified something
You know, I've
that
never been asked that.
separates.
Yeah. I've never been asked that questions, but top of mind, I would say listening to your students. Like it can be easy to just like continue going forward and keep introducing new material. But then if your students are not catching on and they're still on lesson one material and you've moved on to lesson five, then that's a problem. So sometimes your students can like dictate what you can do in the class. And so, yeah, listening to students is great, which is why I do those mid-semester surveys. I had a student ask, she was like, we used to present problems on the board and now we don't do that. That was the thing that helped me learn the most. And I was like, all right, let's bring that back. Um, so yeah, and also, so listening to your students and being willing to explain the same thing multiple times. And if you can, in different ways. Like sometimes we feel annoyed to repeat ourselves, but that's just what needs to get done in an intro math class. So yeah, I think those are my two things.
So it's repetition, huh?
Yeah, yeah. And just listening. Like I may have taught something 3 weeks ago, but that's the place that the students are still stuck on. So we need to spend some time doing that. I remember my first time teaching pre-calculus at UGA. My students just could not understand the domain of a function. So I was like, all right, you guys, I'm going to put a domain question on every quiz for the rest of the semester. When you get it, you'll know that you got it. And that was just something that we just had to keep working on all semester long.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a few more minutes. If you have one more question, maybe.
Julie, I'm laughing in the chat. Yeah, that was a difficult question. Hopefully I answered it okay.
Right, the magic bullet, right? I mean, there's no, it's the constant challenge. How do we get undergraduates excited about math, whether they're math majors or not? It's a challenge, especially for those of us that love it so much. We're like, why doesn't everyone love it?
I know, it's so hard.
I don't have a question, but I wanted to. I forgot to mention the last time I spoke up that I used to be a LA, a learning assistant, with my professor for anatomy and physiology. So we did a lot of active learning, and it was the first time I ever saw it. So when you said you went to the seminar and it was like light bulb, like, why aren't we doing it like this? I was like, oh my God, why didn't I not have classes like this? This is so awesome. That's sort of where mine stemmed from too. So I could feel you on that. I forgot when was that back in? When was the seminar you went to?
Oh, yeah. So I would say it was probably in 2014. It was at North Carolina State University, part of their Building Future Faculty program. But I
Okay,
would say, I don't know, does your school have a Center for Teaching and Learning or something similar to that?
I believe so.
They likely will have workshops and seminars on active learning there as well.
Yeah, I think I've seen some, but this was back then. I think that was back in 2017 or 16 that I started doing that. So that sort of lines up, I see. So
Yeah.
pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
really
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. I think it was kind of a pretty new concept back then.
yeah.
Now at my school at University of Georgia, it's the whole quality enhancement plan. We have a 5-year like active learning plan, which is where that active learning change grant that I applied for came from. So our university is spending a lot of money to implement more active learning in our classes. So it is definitely moving towards that trend now.
Yeah, the involvement of it is really cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Alli, thank you for sharing these grad school tips with us and answering all of our questions. And I've been also subscribed to your channel on Instagram since 2018 as a PhD student. And it was incredible to see how much it helped, especially, you know, when grad school became more isolating during writing time. So again, you know, I'd like to thank you for sharing your journey in academia. And I particularly appreciated that you know, your willingness to share your personal experience and also the side that are not always productive, you know, or failures can be also, you know, can teach us something. And, you know, they're also natural part of a growth. So thank you so much. And I also want to thank each of you for your active present participation and your thoughtful questions and comments. And if you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to Dr. Alli. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.